quoting Charlie Frank's reminiscences of his experience in World War II. Did you register for the draft?
Of course, yeah.
And when was that? Do you remember?
Well, it was in 1941 I must have registered.
Okay. And then what happened?
Well, instead of waiting to be drafted, I enlisted in January of 42.
Did you talk to your mother or your brothers or your sisters about volunteering? Or you made this decision on your own?
No, I talked to them about it.
And they agreed?
Yeah, I mean, as long as I was healthy, and there was no reason why I should be not be drafted, so I decided to join.
Okay. So where did you go first? Where were you sent?
Well, to Fort Dix.
In?
New Jersey.
Okay, you went by train?
Yeah, I guess so, yeah.
All right, so that was January?
Yeah, January 42.
Okay. Were you nervous about going?
No. In fact, I was glad to get away.
How long were you in training there?
Well, I didn't train at Fort Dix. I guess it's called a distribution center. From there, I was sent to Camp Lee in Virginia for training. I was there for 2 months. I think it was 2 months. Yeah.
Did you have any furloughs during that time?
No.
So were you furloughed before you went overseas? Did you go?
No, I didn't get a furlough until after the war was over.
So they sent you overseas after 2 months training?
Yeah. Well, from Camp Lee, I was sent to Fort Knox, Kentucky. And I joined the 1st Armored Division. They were getting ready to go overseas. And from there, we went to Fort Dix. And then overseas from Fort Dix.
Do you remember the name of the ship?
It was a Liberty ship. I don't remember the name.
Okay. The training that you had, the 2 months training, did you feel that you were properly prepared to get into battle?
No. Well, actually, I wasn't trained necessarily to go into battle. They had drilling, and I had practice in being a clerk. That's about all.
Okay.
It was a quartermaster training center.
Okay. When were you assigned to a unit when you were in?
Well, when I was sent to Fort Knox.
Okay, and that was, what was the unit?
Well, it was the Ordnance, headquarters company of the Ordnance Battalion of the 1st Armored Division.
Okay. And when did you leave for Europe? Must have been March?
No, I think I might have gotten into the Army book. I've forgotten about the dates.
Okay.
But
anyway, what was it like on the ship?
Well, we were crowded on the ship.
What kind of food did you have?
Regular Army chow.
It wasn't K rations, it was food.
Well, it was, no, yeah, it was C rations, I guess you call it. It was canned, I forgot, it was regular Army chow. I don't remember if it was C rations or not. But we took turns sleeping in the on deck one night, and then down below in the bunks. We took turns.
What were the accommodations on deck? Hammocks?
No, on the deck, just...
Oh, just laying on the deck?
Yeah.
Not on any kind of a pad or anything?
No.
How about a blanket?
Well, you had your own blankets, yeah.
Okay, what was the weather like while you were crossing?
Well, we went through the North Atlantic, and I guess that's the roughest part of the, it's really rough there, the ocean. It was heavy waves.
Were you seasick?
No, I didn't get seasick. If you go on deck, there's less than tendency of getting seasick. Down below, and then below, they had these cots. They were around 3 or 4 high, and a lot of guys got sick. But,
what? In the bunk?
Well, in and out of the bunk, I guess. It was awful smelly down below deck.
How long did this crossing take? A week?
Well, I don't know, probably about 10 days, if I recall.
And where did you land?
In Belfast, in Northern Ireland. Oh, wait a minute. In Belfast, in Northern Ireland, yeah.
Did you stay in Belfast for any period of time?
Well, there was a camp outside of Belfast. I guess a British camp, Army camp, but they had these, buildings, what do you call them?
Barracks?
Yeah,
Quonsets?
Yeah, there was another name for it. Quonset hut, I guess it was called.
That's what I said, Quonset hut.
Yeah.
Okay.
Rounded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was this winter?
Well, it was in January. Yeah, it was winter.
Uh-huh.
And we were in Northern Ireland, and at 12 o'clock in the night, it was still light.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Did you have any friends from the camp who stayed with you in the same unit?
Oh, there are not too many, a couple of them.
So from Northern Ireland, you went by train to...
Well, I've forgotten. We stayed in England for a while, and we got our trucks while we were in Northern Ireland. They came on another boat.
So you drove the truck down, you didn't take the train?
No, we took our trucks, yeah.
So then you drove over to... Well, wait a minute, how did you get from Ireland to England? You can't, there's no bridge, you had to go by boat or ferry.
No, we were able to... Northern Ireland, we drove.
You had to cross?
I forgot.
You probably took a ferry.
Forgot.
Okay, so you went over to England, and then from England you went to...
Well, we went to Wales to get on a boat that was Swansea, in Wales.
Yeah.
We got on a boat, and that took us down to North Africa.
You went through Gibraltar.
Yeah.
Where in North Africa?
Iran. We get off at Iran.
Is that Morocco?
Yeah.
Okay. How long did that trip take? Do you remember, from England to Morocco?
I don't know, maybe 8 or 9 days. I know it was awful rough because the kind of boat we were on it wasn't a regular ocean liner. And we slept in hammocks. And you'd sleep in a hammock, and when it was rough, you'd hit the ceiling.
Wow.
In fact, I recall, I know they had these tables nailed, long tables nailed to the floor where you sit down and eat, but they collapsed. So we had to eat otherwise. I mean, you know,
it was like
standing.
It's like a buffet.
Yeah, a buffet.
Okay. What was your first encounter with, was it the German army?
Well, actually, I didn't encounter myself. I didn't encounter the German army, but I mean, I was in the Ordnance Battalion. Probably our infantry, they weren't ahead of us, and they made the landing at Iran, and they probably, they did contact the German before ahead of us.
But you saw enemy planes flying overhead.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you remember the names of your commanding officers? Who was your immediate superior?
Well, an officer?
Yes.
Well, there were a couple of them. There were a couple of lieutenants. A guy by the name of Barnes, and our captain was a guy by the name of Red, R-A-A-B. I forgot the battalion commander.
Do you remember your buddies?
Well, I remember the names of a guy by the name of Becker, D'Agostino, Cullen. That doesn't mean anything to me.
Where were they from?
Some were from Kentucky, some from New York City, New Jersey, New York State. There was a guy from Indiana around there, all over the country.
How often did you get mail from home?
Well, I guess they had mail call. I mean, it was irregular when it was a mail call.
Did you ever get packages from home?
Yeah, I remember once I got a salami from home. That didn't last long.
And it was intact when you got it?
Well, I think part of it was, I don't know, fell in water or something. But I was able to salvage a bit of it.
And how often did you ride home?
I don't know, maybe every 10 days or something like that.
What was it like in North Africa? What kind of, you still had army rations? Or did you get any local food?
No, we never had any local food. It was always army ration.
Didn't you tell me once you got sick on
Well,
what was it, apricots or something?
no, well, when we landed in Africa, North Africa, I mean, the Arabs were around selling watermelon, the watermelon. And, I mean, we didn't get much, any fresh fruit on no fresh fruit on any of the ships. So, of course, we buy the watermelon, of course. We gorge ourselves. I got diarrhea from that. And then they were selling oranges. So, I mean, we buy that stuff from them.
What was the weather like?
Well, I remember the first night we got there, it poured like hell. And we pitched our pup tents and we got soaked. But after that, I mean, our trucks caught up with us, and the weather was hot, and we'd sleep either in the trucks or on the ground or wherever.
So you didn't have any furloughs there.
I didn't get any furloughs until the war was over. I mean, we were overseas, I know, well, once when we were in Italy, and we got a 5-day pass to Rome. But I mean, not everybody at once, a few guys. But other than that, we overseas, we never got a furlough.
So other than the Arabs who were peddling the fruit, you didn't meet any natives?
No.
Okay. How long were you there, North Africa? Approximately.
I don't know, maybe a year.
And all this time you were supplying the infantry?
Well, we were a tank division, and we had a battalion of tanks, and we had a battalion of infantrymen, engineers, and signal corps, reconnaissance.
Okay, so what was it that you did for that whole year in North Africa?
Well, I was a truck driver, and I carried in the truck, I was in charge of all General Motors parts for trucks, and I had bins in the trucks, and I carried parts, and also there were trucks loaded with engines and transmissions and axles and stuff like that.
What was your rank then?
Well, eventually I got to be a sergeant.
Okay. Now, when did you leave for Italy?
Well, I don't recall the time.
Okay.
I just know that we were overseas a little over 3 years.
Okay.
So probably the remainder of the time I was in Italy.
So from Morocco, you went on another boat.
Well, I mean, we were campaigning in North Africa. I mean, we were in Rabat and Algiers and Tunis, all 3 countries.
Okay.
Of course, Rabat is a city. Yeah.
All right. But then when you went to Italy, you landed
in Naples.
Okay. So at that point, when was this that your buddy got hit in the truck? Was that North Africa or Italy?
Wait a minute. That was in Italy.
Okay. So what happened to him?
Well, this was after, when we first landed in Italy, we landed in Naples, and I don't know, we might have been there a couple weeks or more, I don't remember, and then from there we got on an LST. In other words, that took us to Anzio, on a boat.
Right.
So when we got to Anzio, we drove our trucks off the boat, and we went out to our bivouac area. And this is when my buddy slept in a truck, and he got hit. But he was fortunate. Well, the first, I actually didn't see him or what happened, but
you were sleeping on the ground.
Yeah, I was sleeping on the ground, and I woke up the next morning, and I learned that he was sleeping in he had slept in a truck, and the truck was hit, and he was sent to a hospital. I didn't see him or hear him at all.
Were any of your friends killed?
No, not my, no.
We
weren't a line outfit, in other words.
Okay.
We were an Ordnance Battalion.
Okay. So, eventually you did have a 5-day furlough?
Well, the war was almost over.
Mm-hmm.
We were up near Rome, and I got a 5-day furlough. That was towards the end of the war.
So you took a train into Rome?
No, an army truck took us in.
Okay. How many of you went?
Oh, probably around, say from the company, maybe a dozen guys might have gone.
Mm-hmm. So what did you went sightseeing?
Yeah.
What did you see in Rome?
Well,
you didn't see the Vatican?
Well, I wanted to, but nobody would go with me.
You were the only Jew in the group?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I went sightseeing. We went to the Colosseum, and we walked around town.
Uh-huh. Okay. Do you have any pasta?
No, we didn't actually. We didn't eat there. We weren't supposed to eat any of their food. In fact, when we'd be out in the country and we were eating, there'd be a bunch of Italians, people there with pots, and when after you finish eating, there's always food left over, and they'd have with cans, and they'd like you to give them the leftovers.
Interesting. All right, so how long were you in Italy?
Probably about, I don't know, a year and a half or so.
Mm-hmm. So at this point the war was winding down?
Well, this is in 1945 it was winding down.
Right. Okay. So from Italy, where did you go?
We were sent home.
By another boat?
Yeah.
And when was that? Do you remember?
Well, it was probably maybe around August of 45.
Okay. And you landed in the United States where?
At Newport News, Virginia.
From there you went where?
To Fort Dix. Oh, wait a minute, no. we went to Aberdeen.
Is that when you were furloughed?
Well, yeah, I got a furlough, 30-day furlough.
So you went home?
And then I came back to, and then while I was on furlough, the atom bomb was dropped, and the Japanese surrendered. So when I went back to Aberdeen, I was discharged.
Okay.
But before I went on furlough, I was going to be sent over to the Pacific because the Japanese hadn't surrendered yet. And some guys were being discharged, and I had to report back because I was going to be sent to the Pacific, but while I was on furlough, the Japanese gave up, so when I went back to report back, I was discharged.
Okay. Did you receive any medals or commendations?
Well, I got the Bronze Star.
Did you get those after you were discharged?
Well, before I was discharged, a young reporter came up to me and told me that I earned a medal. So, of course, I got the medal actually after I was discharged in the mail.
While you were in the service, did you have an opportunity to attend any Jewish services?
I think I recall there was a tremendous Seder service in Florence. I guess it was in a railroad station there. They had a tremendous Seder, for the Jewish boys.
Yeah.
But I don't remember any of it now, but I just remember that there was a Seder.
Was there a Jewish chaplain with your unit, or any kind of a chaplain?
Yeah, well, I guess they had a chaplain, but I rarely saw him.
Okay. So you were discharged after how many years?
Well, it was 3.5 years.
Okay, so you were discharged in what approximate date?
Well, probably in September or August or September of 45, I guess.
Okay. Anything else you want to record? If we think of anything, we'll add it on.
Yeah, all right, I can't think of anything now. That's all there is? I just remembered that when we were in Italy and we were waiting in Naples to get on the boat, Al Jolson visited us and put on a show for us for a little while.
Was he the only celebrity that you remember?
Yeah.
He was traveling with the USO, I assume.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, we can always add something on later.
All right, okay.
Now is the addition. Why did you get the Bronze Star?
Yeah. When we landed in the United States after the war at Newport News, then I was shipped up to Aberdeen Proving Grounds, and I was waiting for furlough. came up to me and told me that I got a Bronze Star.
Well, we have that on tape already, that part.
Yeah, so I didn't know what it was for. I just didn't know what the heck he was talking about. I knew that I got, well, a good conduct ribbon, but I couldn't understand about the Bronze Star. And he said, well, every evening at an army post they have retreat or they have a ceremony. You pass a review and they give me the award then. Well, I wasn't for that at all. I didn't want any part of that. So he said, well, get the medal in the mail. Then I was thinking about it. I was wondering why I was getting the star. And then when we were back in Italy, and we had, were in Anzio, out in the field, there was a detail of about 10 men and myself sent back to the port. I guess they were unloading a ship full of parts. So we were in the big warehouse by the port, and there was conveyors coming from the ship into the warehouse. And I was in charge of these men, and there were crates, wooden boxes of parts coming in. And as they come in, my crew unload them, and they put them in different piles for the various companies to be shipped to. And we were working steadily, and we seemed to be doing a good job of it. And evidently there might have been a bottleneck there, and the Army had a problem here. They had the parts, and they had no way of getting them out to the various companies. So probably, evidently, we did a good job, and I didn't think much of it. I mean, I know I'm a work, and this is the only reason I could think of that we did such a fantastic job that was given the Bronze Star.
When the medal arrived, there was no indication, there was no letter with it.
There's a card in with the medal now, but if you want, I'll get it and read it to you.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
I found this letter with the medal from the War Department. It says, "Dear Mr. Frank, in compliance with your recent request my recent request."
Well, as opposed to you're getting it, you said in some kind of
all right. The Secretary
of situation.
All right. The Secretary of War has directed the Commanding General Philadelphia Quartermaster Department to forward to you an appropriately engraved Bronze Star Medal for meritorious service in support of combat operations during the period from April 15, 1945 to May 1945 in northern Italy. And it's signed by Edward Witzel, Major General, the Adjutant General. That's it.
So that's what you were talking about, was that unloading the ship with the supplies.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, what are all these buttons?
Well, this is the button you wear on your collar of your shirt.
Uh-huh.
On one side, it is the U.S. Army. On the other, this is a symbol for the Ordnance.
Is there any regulation about which goes on which side?
There might be, but I don't know at this point what they are.
And what is this little eagle?
I don't know. I forgot.
And what is this little thing? Star?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe it looks like a Jewish star, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
I don't know.
All right. And that ribbon is
I don't know, that might represent the campaigns and with the division. I don't know.
Okay, and this is,
The patch for the 1st Armored Division.
and this is your,
Oh, this is, represents overseas service. I forgot what this is.
anything else?
No, that's all. And that's my Army passport.
Tell me how you improvised showers when you weren't using your helmets as a mini bathtub.
Well, I recall that when we were, say, in Italy there, when it was, the weather was warm. I mean, we'd get one of these 5-gallon cans, not an Army 5-gallon can for water or gas, but I don't know how we got it, and we'd heat water in it, and then take the cap for the can and punch holes in it and hang it up between 2 trees and unloosen the cap a little bit to take a shower. I mean, that was one of the ways we did it. Then, of course, at times when we were near the central area, they'd have these shower units set up where you go in and you take off all your dirty clothes and you take a shower and they issue you other clothes that have been laundered.
Okay.
They'd have these shower units every once in a while. We'd strike those. Of course, it wasn't too often.
You came home with some uniforms.
Yeah, well, a uniform.
A uniform.
Yeah. And, shirts and slacks, and eventually wore those out.
I remember those.
Yeah. Okay.